Hi everybody, I'm Mike Shields of Next in Media. We're here at Cannes as part of my special series on YouTube, sponsored by View Planner. I'm here with Greg Johns. Greg, what is your title? Let's make sure.
Chief Product Officer at Canvas Worldwide.
All right, so Greg, we're talking a lot about the YouTube ecosystem. Where do you see them? I know that's a broad question, but they want to be part of the TV budget conversation. They made a lot of inroads there, but they're also, they're in so many other aspects of the business. How does it work for you guys? Are they in those, YouTube versus Disney conversations? Are they part of different strategies? How does it look for your strategy?
I mean, the answer is yes to, they want to be a little bit everywhere. And I think they have the right to be in a lot of different places. I will tell you, the real answer to that question is going to be dependent upon what a client's objectives are. As marketers, the first thing we look at are consumers and, understanding their behavior and respecting their behavior.
Yep.
If we look at where consumers spend their time, YouTube is a big part of their media diet. And so it would be ignorance to not consider them in the same lens as linear TV consumption or every other piece of video consumption. YouTube is a Jupiter in the solar system, and you're just not, able to ignore that fact when you're taking all your budgeting into account. How you look at YouTube is going to be dependent upon the client. So, it being supplementary for linear television maybe makes sense for more of an automotive than, say, another client of ours. And so that's how we'll kind of look at the overall piece of it is, how does it set within the consumer's media consumption habits? How does it set within my client's business objectives? How much audience targeting do I need? Because, that's exactly where, we're going to see a lot of the power of YouTube. And how much do we need to curate the content? Because, I think that's always been, at least me personally, how to approach YouTube. Is it either a content play or is it an audience play?
Yeah.
And can you do both successfully?
So you kind of hinted at this in a couple of your answers. It's going to depend on the client, I think, in the category, but do brands see, there's the debate of whether YouTube is, TV, is it premium? Is it the same as comedies and dramas when you put in your ad? Does that matter? And then I would even ask the same question about, TikTok and other things. Where does that debate go?
I feel like you ask 5 people, you get 5 different answers on that. I remember going back to YouTube's early days when you had to have the UGC conversation with clients.
Right.
And, understand what's your risk tolerance. And clients want to be daring and take chances until something bad happens. And then, you get to deal with the aftermath. We've had some clients over the years that have gotten caught up in some of YouTube's quality issues. Not anything that was necessarily Google's fault inherent of itself, because the size of that thing is just massive.
It's wide open.
It is going to be a tough order for any company, let alone, one of the biggest tech companies in the world, to try to curate all that content to the standards that advertisers demand. But, they've largely been successful in doing it, but again, 99%, it's great until you're in the 1%.
Right.
I think that is it premium? Yes, in many, many ways. I would agree that it is. I'll take an automaker client. At Canvas, we have Hyundai, Kia, Genesis as some of our largest clients. And in many ways, the type of influencer content that serves the automotive space on YouTube is as premium as you can get for what we are trying to do.
Those kind of creators who are like car guys, car junkie kind of types.
Yes,
that's
car
like
reviews.
Up there with...
You're right. And YouTube allows for us to deliver content that is largely seen as unbiased by consumers, and largely is. It's not even because it's seen that way. Like I said, we're up there, and we're taking the bad with the good whenever it comes to that type of content. But we need to do that to make an authentic experience to consumers, and that's how the brand builds trust, obviously. And so I do think YouTube's a Swiss Army knife in terms of what you can do with it.
Right. You made an interesting point about I wonder about this. Some of the creators, again, depending on the category, are, you can, the numbers are different, but they have consistent, predictable audiences, a la TV in some cases.
Sure.
Do you think you'll start to see creators, if not already, are almost part of upfront conversations where you can reach car lovers every Tuesday?
Again, it depends on the brand.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm a fashion brand, if I'm Maybelline, if I'm, in that space, it's absolutely part of that conversation. And it has to be, because that's where, a lot of the brand decisions are being made with your audience. Again, for us, for automotive, we have Zillow as a client, another very high consideration good.
Sure.
It's very targeted in terms of how we want to use that content. I think it's important to our consumers' buying process at the end of the day. But, is it a mass reach vehicle? Not necessarily when it comes to that piece of content. Yeah. It has its reach potential for us, obviously, and we use it that way for, conventional mass media advertising. And we layer on the targeting so that we're getting a more efficient, version of our media buy in doing so.
All right. We talked about whether, this is TV or not. Do you see, is there a big distinction? It seems like brands they'll see YouTube like television because the viewing patterns are similar, but they're not sure what to make of, call it like algorithm driven scrolling, which is, people spend a lot of time on TikTok and Reels. But is that the same as TV? Is it, or is that seen as like a distraction medium? How do people generally view those two things?
Here's where I think you've seen the evolution happen. If you go back to the early days of digital, what you always used to say is, what's a lean back medium versus a lean forward medium? All right. And, you look at the studies of how consumers behave and how they absorb advertising, you're more able to get a message through in a lean back environment because, consumers largely have been trained to, accept advertising in that environment.
Yeah. The wind is picking up. Your questions are becoming ominous, I think.
Maybe. Yeah. The winds of change are blowing. Any case. But I think that's where you've seen a big shift in digital in the last 5-6 years. I would say Facebook probably started it, where you started to get your first lean back and, call it doom scrolling or whatever you want to call it. But that's where the lean back started. TikTok is emblematic of that. To me, TikTok is TV for that reason. YouTube is TV for that reason.
Yeah.
I think that, the question of how good is the algo comes into play is, does that lean back experience continue to pay off? Because on YouTube, I'm watching content that maybe is an average of 2 to 5 minutes on a clip. So if I'm going to be lean back for a half hour, the algorithm needs to keep delivering for me. And in doing so, if I can maintain that state, my advertising is going to be more effective than if I'm having to hunt and peck for my content. You're in a different type of mood, mentality, and you're going to just mentally screen advertising more effectively that way.
A couple more for me. The getting back to YouTube, what do you need from them? What is missing? Is it need to be easier to buy? Do you need better attribution measurement? What's kind of lacking right now?
Again, this goes back to a debate I have. Is it an area where you need to curate the content versus making it an audience play and let the consumers vote with, their thumbs or their remotes at this point?
Yep.
I think that more control over content, and Google has been moving in that direction for obvious reasons. I think more control over content is going to help continue to make inroads on the mentality of, is this TV or not? TV, again, there's a lot of just non-content buys on TV that happen every single day.
Sure.
But the real headline stuff, that's all about what show am I in? What sport am I advertising against? And so, YouTube can do it, but they could benefit by making it a bit easier.
Yeah.
From my perspective. And again, companies like View Planner are able to help do that. And there's a lot of companies that have been out there seeing that problem and trying to solve for it. Google hasn't been fighting them per se, but they haven't exactly been helping them either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a unique relationship, kind of hard to understand sometimes.
Yeah.
What, last thing, what are you excited about, either that you've seen this week at Cannes so far, or just the second half of the year that we should be eyeing in the business?
I mean, again, I think that you can't get away from the two letters. So what I'm getting
I know
excited.
they are.
Yeah, I know. What I'm getting excited about is that, AI is moving, just like it should through the Gartner hype cycle. We're getting past that big inflated expectations part. People are now starting to think some thoughtful ways to use it. There's a saying that I say way too many times to my own agency, in regard to making sure you're not fearful of that, which is, AI is not going to replace media planners, but media planners who use AI are going to replace media planners that don't. So, now I'm starting to see some real thoughtful areas around AI. One of the things that I think is going to be a difficulty for us is explainability.
Yes.
And I have some clients that are regulated in terms of how they can offer their products to different advertisers. I have an AI algorithm that's not going to be able to explain how it does its ads. That is a big problem. And so now I'm starting to hear more of that discussion.
Right.
And
it is very abstract, a black box deal.
It is. And I mean, in many ways it's alchemy at the end of the day. And look, they in this country, or in the United States, we're not in this country right now, they approve many drugs not exactly knowing how they're going to work, but they can still get approval if they're safe.
Right.
So, advertisers are really going to have to think about, what are you going to allow for AI? Kind of goes back to, again, bringing this all back to YouTube. It's the same story of, when we had the user-generated content conversation with clients originally. You don't quite know what you're going to get, but at the same time, it can be wildly beneficial for your business. So many businesses got built on top of YouTube and digital video, not quite knowing how they were going to get there, but they ended up getting there.
It's about risk tolerance in a lot of cases.
But I think, seeing the progression of how the conversations are happening with AI is exciting for me, for sure. And it's a conversation that needs to happen.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Thanks so much for your time here.
Absolutely, Mike. It's great to see you.
Same.